All right, we're live. All right, I'm Mark Sweetman. I am going to be coming in and out as the off night. Um, goes in and out. We're having technical difficulties. I'm at my West Coast studio tonight. Is something wrong?
No.
All right. That's Susan and Jason on the screen with me. They appear to be enjoying the
Hi, everybody.
difficulties I'm having.
Welcome to the off night. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
You know what?
We'll be up to 12 followers, just like Jesus Christ.
He did all right in the long run.
I'm going to take me out of here. Susan, take over as host, please.
I'm going to read you a poem I wrote. And then if I'm causing difficulties, I will check out and leave it to the fellas tonight. But it is November 13th, 2023. This is the off night. And here's your poem. Perjury charge? Is Donald Trump a liar? Crime 56? He'll go to courts up higher. Los Angeles Interstate 10 was on fire. The hospital situation in Gaza is dire. Grindavik underground lava's a fryer. Iceland volcano evacuation require. And that's your poem of the week. Let's bring back our host, Mark Sweetman. Or not.
Or not.
All right. Good to see everybody.
See you
I'll
later,
leave
Susan.
you to it. Bye-bye.
Have a great night. Well, Sam, it's just you and me.
Would you like to hear depressing news or a joke?
Well,
Hey,
we've got
Ned.
Ned Rice here. Let's let him vote. Depressing news or joke, Ned? What do you say?
What's the difference?
You'll see. You'll see.
Depressing news.
My nephew, who is 60 years old and is a long-haul driver, died.
Oh,
He died in a gas station in Houston, Texas. He was found there 2.5 weeks ago. The funeral is December 3rd. And that part of my family, which is, God bless him, pure redneck. Yes, Jewish redneck. Not kind of redneck for Jews. Redneck is insisting on an open casket.
oh, what?
He's been dead for 2.5 weeks, and they're insisting on an open casket. So I said, why can't we have an Irish funeral? Closed casket, open bar.
Yeah. Oh boy.
I thought Jews buried immediately, like the next day.
They would, except they weren't in a position to get him.
Yeah.
You know.
What was it? A heart attack?
We don't know. He didn't smoke. He didn't drink. He didn't date. He was just, a kind of a loner.
Yeah.
Which so long distance trucking was perfect for him.
Yep.
I know as much as you do, frankly.
Yeah.
Oh, he was also no other way to put this, a huge gun nut.
Well,
but it wasn't suicide. There was no sign of blood or anything.
right.
So, we don't know. Now, the joke is a guy walks into a bar with, I don't think I told you this, and reaches into a duffel bag and pulls out a guy 1 foot tall. And he puts the guy up on the bar and places a little piano next to the guy who's 1 foot tall. And the little guy starts playing piano. And the bartender says, "Where'd you get him from?" And he goes, "From a genie." He goes, "Wow, where's the genie now?" He goes, "Well, he's outside." And before the guy can finish his sentence,
Right.
the bartender runs outside. And he comes back about 5 minutes later, followed by hundreds of thousands of ducks. And he says to the guy, he says, "You didn't tell me the genie was hard of hearing." He said, "I tried to tell you, but you left early." He says, "Really? You think I asked for 1 million ducks And the guy says, really? You think I asked for a 12-inch pianist? You know that one, Ned?
I've never heard it told that well. It's very,
Yeah.
Well, thank
very
you.
well,
Yeah,
very
that's-
well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
And although this has nothing to do with the podcast, but we're off to a rocking start here. After about 8 p.m. this evening, I celebrated 32 years of sobriety.
God bless you.
Woohoo!
Mazel tov.
Yeah, thank you. Exactly. I'm going to
Congratulations.
celebrate by going to the bar a little later on tonight.
Exactly.
because,
Throw
you
one
know.
back for the boys.
Exactly. Here's to 32 years of unbroken sobriety and all the damage it's done me. And
Read more about it in his new book. Oh, fuck that.
because what could possibly go wrong?
Exactly.
You know,
32 years. Do you find it easier as you go along or more difficult?
more or less, it's not as bad as it was, say, in the first 15 years.
The first 31 years were pretty tough.
After
the only
smooth sailing.
In all seriousness, the biggest part of the problem is, especially like for the last 10 years or so, when I realized that every fucked up stupid thing I've done stone cold sober, and I've got absolutely nothing to blame it on. I can't say that someone repossessed my truck. I can't say that. Nope, that was just me being a fuckhead. Yep. Got to take that one. No, can't. You know how it is, like when you wake up after you spent the evening with the fat chick at the Taco Bell, and well, I know why am I even bringing that up, but okay, with the fat Mexican at the Taco Bell, and then you
Ay caramba.
yeah, exactly. Well, it was the tequila that started it, and then I ended up with an unplanned tattoo, and now I got to go get this prescription filled. And
well, you say
okay,
it was
so maybe that's true. But of all the terrible mistakes you have made in your life,
yes,
how many of them were drink and drug related?
Oh, the really worst ones, all of them.
Well, then you see that's an argument for
that
sobriety.
validates your sobriety.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when I think about being sober for just a couple of years and flying over Jackson Prison and looking down, it's like that there was a time I was in the middle of that bad boy looking up.
Yeah.
And the perspective from being 5,000 feet above it was much nicer than being right in the middle of the yard.
I bet.
Even though I was like 25 at the time, and apparently some people, I was the apple of their eye, or at least they kept giving me candy bars. I'm not exactly sure what that was about.
Candy apples would have.
Well, yeah,
Candy apples was my nickname.
Only after the third day. You don't
Isn't
get
there
your
a stripper named Candy Bar?
Candy
There
samples.
should be. There
Candy
should
Bar, and her trademark line was Candy Bar and her bosom buddies.
Oh God! Remember Lily St. Cyr with her?
Of course
Yes.
I do. Yeah,
Oh,
Lily St. Cyr was a pioneer.
Oh, tell me about it. I mean,
I saw her interviewed on the Mike Wallace thing.
Yeah.
You want to hear something funny? This is hysterical. Geraldo Rivera wanted to interview her.
Right.
And she said, I wouldn't go near that pig. Now, I'm going to tell you something. When a stripper tells you a pig, I mean, and that's literally she said he is literally a pig.
Whoa.
And they said, what?
He is.
Oh, big time. Oh my God.
Yeah,
who, Jerry
Jerry
Rivers in real
Jerry
life
Rivers of the Bronx. Yep.
Is not really a nice guy. Wow.
Oh, no. I'll tell you a story I love about him. Not him, but the story is when he had an afternoon talk show, like a Mike Douglas kind of show.
Yeah, I remember.
He did a thing. He had a segment where he had comedians come on and do a routine. And he did something that enraged me. Every time a comedian told a joke, he had a drummer do a rim shot every time.
Oh.
And that, when I'm telling someone a joke and they go, bump, I want to smack them in the face.
It's the worst.
They don't realize how insulting that is.
It really is terrible.
It's demeaning. They think it's cute and it's not. So he's having the rim shot, and Jackie Mason was supposed to be one of the judges, and Jackie Mason went off on him. And he said, who the hell do you think you are to do rim shots with these kids? They're out here trying to make a name for themselves, and you're insulting them with this rim shot. Tell this goddamn drummer, these are exact
Mhm.
words. Tell this goddamn drummer to get the hell out of here. I'll shove him up your ass. Not the drum kit, him.
Great.
And
Great.
so
Good for you, Jackie.
I'm not a big fan of Jackie Mason, but for that one moment, I was his biggest fan.
Jackie
and
is,
Geraldo is standing there with this
Yeah.
like this,
yeah,
like I have nothing to say because I'm really not that smart.
all right. No, I do remember him trying to open Al Capone's vault
Oh
while I was
God.
in prison at Jackson, Michigan, or and I wasn't at Jackson. I was actually up in the UP in a place called Camp Cousineau, where every inbred Uper joke you can think of, it's a documentary. It makes Deliverance look like an advanced, forward-thinking society up there, only
It's
with more
not.
flannel. I found it one of the erotic highlight of the mid 1970s.
The erotic highlights.
You know,
But he also did something else that was also just as disgusting. The thing with the comedians wasn't disgusting; it was demeaning and cruel. But this was disgusting. Katie Couric's first husband. Is she married again? Let's say she is.
Yeah.
Katie Couric.
I think she remarried. Yeah.
Yeah. Katie Couric's first husband, Jay Monahan, died of cancer. And it was a tough, horrible thing he went through. It wasn't like he got it. Huh?
I think it was like colon cancer.
Yeah,
call
it
it.
wasn't like it happened and like a week later he was. No, it was hell.
Yeah.
And she's then interviewing Geraldo Rivera like 2 weeks later, after Jay died, and Geraldo's hitting on her. And she said, Geraldo, my husband just passed away. And this is the thing he said that made me want to drop him out of a plane. He goes, well, I can't help it. It's my Spanish blood. You're half a Jew. Stop it. Okay? And the Jew part of you is now filing lawsuits to disown you. God, I can't help
the
it.
other
It's my
part
Spanish
not
blood.
Spanish,
Please.
but Puerto Rican?
Huh? Yeah,
isn't
his mother was his father was Puerto Rican and his mother was Jewish.
Well, that's not Spanish, that's Puerto Rican.
Of course, that's exactly right.
You know.
It reminds me of that Freddie Prinze joke. My father's Hungarian, my mother's Puerto Rican, I'm a Hungarican. They met on a subway trying to pick each other's pockets. That was one of the lines he did when he was on The Tonight Show, when he got called to the couch.
Yeah.
I think Geraldo's most despicable act was fucking Barbara Walters in one of those boats in the pond in Central Park.
Did he?
No.
That's what I hear.
Oh my God!
Now,
wait a minute. Who's worse on that? Him or
I know,
her?
really. Who's
No,
most,
that's a highlight for
Who's
her.
more despicable?
Who's more discredited? I'm not sure.
Well, she's more despicable, but nothing to do with fucking Geraldo Rivera or Jerry Rivers.
I think one of the most ironic things about that is as they were doing it, the Hughes Corporation was playing Rock the Boat. That, you see, right there.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
I think that's why we need to call. I think that's why we need to call this show.
The best part was when Barbara said, "You're so large."
Oh God!
Awful stuff.
What was the joke Larry Ambrose did when she died? Oh yeah, Barbara Walters died. Rest in peace. No, Larry actually wrote Barbara Walters WIP.
That's great.
That's right up there with the Jessica Savage driving school. I remember.
Oh man!
Someone doing it thinking, "Wow, that one was tough," because she died in like 2 foot of water. The car overturned in a swamp.
Yeah,
she had a blood alcohol level of Smirnoff, and so that they literally they had time to have the before she got to take the Mary Jo Kopechne mud bath.
Mary Jo was a good woman. You leave her alone.
Well, she certainly wasn't pregnant. I mean, that's what the autopsy would have said.
Oh, by the way, is anyone watching the JFK thing on PBS? Maybe it just started running. It's all the old footage colorized, and It's footage I've
Oh, the
never
assassination?
Yes. It's very good. It just started the other night.
Or to quote Ned, not as funny as you thought it would be.
No, I thought there were some funny parts, obviously, but overall,
Well, I thought the funniest thing was when Governor Connolly said, "Boy, the people of Texas really love you," and you could almost hear God saying, "Not so fast."
my favorite was when Jackie said, "Would it kill you to leave the top down once?"
Oh, that's great.
That was insensitive.
Okay.
That was terrible.
My name is Barney Rubble. I have nothing to do with this podcast. That was Ned Rice, spelled Ned, capital RICE.
I thought it was
Yeah.
when John said to Jackie, "You stupid bitch, it's depository, not Ow."
Something like maybe if you'd learn to keep it in your pants, you wouldn't get your head blown off.
I tried to get Joan Rivers to do historical fashion police, like fashion police over the years.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't go for it. But one of the best ones was
Really?
she did Jackie after the shooting, when she talks about Jackie's. You remember the famous outfit with the pillbox hat?
Yeah.
Right.
Joan says, "I love this outfit. It just needs a splash of color."
Wouldn't it be great if there was like a
think that would've
fashion
killed.
designer there that day and he said, "Oh, you'll never get that out."
Yeah. Don't rub, blot.
Blot.
So what's worse, having your husband shot before your very eyes, or going back to Washington D.C. with Lyndon B. Johnson sitting right next to you?
Ooh, that's a.
That's enough for
That
grabs
is a
right there.
You know, I mean, Lady Bird's kind of used to having to sit next to the bastard. She actually had to get naked with him and make kids, but yeah, that's
Lyndon Johnson was one of the few people who would actually conduct business while sitting on the toilet, with the door open.
Yeah,
right. It's a power move.
Yeah, totally, absolutely. Power move.
I'll tell you a funny
Watch me
story.
shit, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Linda Bird, that was the older of the two daughters, right? Linda Bird.
Yeah.
Linda Bird had a husband named Patrick Nugent.
Yep. Catholic
and
boy.
after after LBJ died, Lady Bird, who did some wonderful things in D.C., whole beautification project. She made D.C. really beautiful with beautiful trees and stuff like that. Anyway, she owned a lot of radio stations in Texas.
Yes.
When radio meant something, a lot. Okay?
That's how she got her husband elected to the Senate.
Exactly. And and Patrick Nugent, because he was married to her daughter, she made him vice president of, I guess it was called KLBJ, or LBJ.
Oh, yeah,
because they all had the same initials.
Right.
And Patrick, who, as I tell you this story, you'll begin to realize was a moron, was screwing around on Linda Bird Johnson in Texas and Lady Bird found out. And now you can, if you go to a Taco Bell and you demand to see the manager, it'll be Nugent.
Yeah.
Okay, because as soon as Lady Bird found out, fired is not enough of what she did to him.
He was ejected.
He came. Yeah, he came into work one day, and there was a security guard saying, "Okay, this is all your stuff right here.
Yeah, here's your box."
Yeah. And he said, "Well, will you help me take it out?" And he said, and this is from the guard. He goes, "The fuck out of here." He says, "Well, do you know who I am?" He says, "Don't make me ask you twice."
Well, do you realize
talk about a guy who couldn't get a job?
Do you realize how important Lady Bird Johnson's family is? Her family.
He did.
I mean, he married into it.
Who were they, Jason? I don't know who they were.
They own Kellogg Brown and Root, and they're one of the principal owners of Halliburton.
Okay.
Amongst other things.
This is Lady Bird?
This is Lady Bird's family. They are old Texas oil money. The Johnsons had a ranch. They had some money. They weren't poor, but Lady Bird's family was on a whole different level.
No,
It was
there's money, and
the
then there's
Texas
what Lady
aristocracy.
Bird had.
Yeah, exactly. They were like Texas aristocracy, which is saying something.
And if the thing, her reputation among the people who worked for her was she was a saint.
Yes.
If someone was sick, she'd say, "You take as much time as you need."
Do
She
you
was a
think
lovely
Eugenie?
person, but you don't screw around on her daughter.
Do you think that she ran into the hard of hearing genie and she did ask for a 12-inch pianist?
It could
And
have been.
and
I'm
and
keeping
then,
hope alive.
and instead he said, "Oh, hold on, I've got just the guy for you." Because and
It just amazes me, Patrick Nugent. Like, if you're going to do that, okay, if you're going to have an affair,
be
okay,
smart.
then don't do it in that state. Seriously,
Yeah.
Go to Oklahoma, Arkansas. Don't go there.
Look at Arnold Schwarzenegger knocking up the housekeeper.
Yeah.
Who's that kid going to look like?
Yeah.
What do you think? They're not going to notice. The kid looks like Bam Bam with Arnold's cheekbones, and
Yeah.
the only reason the Kennedys
Kid was
married you
born
so
with a
they could.
German accent. That's weird.
Yeah, they just wanted to breed a Kennedy that could take a bullet, and
it's tough when you hear a kid who's half Hispanic going "Hasta luego, baby."
Yeah. That wasn't supposed to happen.
while he's bench pressing the Winnebago outside the house.
When I lived in Vegas, Schwarzenegger came to. Steve Wynn's wife had this this project she did for inner city kids in Vegas. It was a really nice thing. She would get like big names, to come in, and she had Schwarzenegger come in, and I don't know the name of the group, but it was the song "I Like the Way You Work It," No Diggity, which was a huge hit at that time. They came in and sang, so she had Schwarzenegger come in. So I'm sitting there because I was on the radio and I was supposed to interview him. And I thought, all right, he's going to come in and he's going to do the standard, "Hey, kids, don't, eat your vegetables, love America,
Right.
I got to go." He talked to them for 1/2 hour. And he said, when I came to this country, these are tough kids, these are inner city kids. He said, when I came to this country, they told me I should just leave. I wanted to be an actor. And they said, "Look at you. You have a big gap in your teeth. Your hair looks like crap. You're just a big muscle bound freak." And I said, "No, I worked my ass off. And I got my teeth fixed, and I worked on my English. And now I'm a big deal." He said, "I'm telling you this because people have told you your whole lives you don't have a chance. Well, they're wrong. Okay, they are wrong. You should, and you can prove them wrong by working your ass off and doing the best." And these kids are mesmerized by him because
Well,
he's not doing that. Eat your vegetables and
Yeah.
salute.
Plus, they love his movies.
He's a very charismatic
but you know what I'm
guy,
saying?
though.
They could love his movies, and he could still do that pablum.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
But he didn't.
Yeah.
And absolutely, the movies.
But he had credibility with them.
Absolutely.
And
But I was so
he could
impressed with
stand up
that.
to the
And I
acting
walked up to him. I
magnitude
said,
of
"That
Grace
was a
Jones.
wonderful speech." He went, "Yeah, fooled him again." No, no. He was and he was really nice. He said, "Listen, I don't have a lot of time, but I'll give you 15 minutes." I thought, shit, I was hoping. I didn't say this to him. I was hoping for 3.
Yeah.
You have 15 minutes of Schwarzenegger. So I said, "How do you maintain?" I always wanted to ask him this. I said, "You travel a lot, and there's not always a gym near you. How do you maintain your physique?" And he said, "Well, if I'm in a hotel, which I normally am," he said, I try to get a hotel with about 20 stories high. And I run up the 20 stories and down the 20 stories for an hour. And this is what I said to him. I went, "You do?" Like that. Really? Jesus. He said, "Well, you could do that." I said, we haven't met, have we? Yeah, you really? I mean, that's kind of you to say, but I said, "No, if
I get winded in the elevator."
See, I get winded hearing you describe it. Okay. I said, after 5 stories, they're going, "Medic." Okay. No. He said, "Well, he said, you're not in bad shape." I said, "I'm standing next to you."
Yeah.
And he
How
goes,
off color can I be on this show?
This show,
Yes.
I've been pretty off color.
My favorite Arnold story is they were talking about his pickup expertise with women. Supposedly he was at some fancy Hollywood party, and he said to this woman, "Go into ladies' room, stick your finger up your ass. I want to smell it."
Oh my God.
What a romantic.
That was his
Well, he is.
come on to her.
He is German. I mean,
Yep.
sort of.
Yep.
I mean,
Wow.
And I think it worked. Apparently it worked.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
You know,
You think Hitler talked like that to Eva Braun? You think they had that kind of a relationship?
You know what she would say? Now, this is what Eva Braun said to Hitler. How come you're a vegetarian? I like meat. You know, he was a vegetarian.
oh, I knew that.
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come on, honey. Let's go vacation in Berlin. I hear Berlin in the spring is fantastic. Of course, reading. I think it was William Shire's book. The big joke in Christmas of '44 in Berlin was be practical. Give a casket.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's.
Do you
There's some
remember the
German.
movie with Tom Cruise about the guy who tried to kill Hitler?
Yes.
Valkyrie?
Yeah.
Valkyrie,
Count
right.
Stauffenberg.
I thought, because that happened a lot.
Yeah.
I thought
there
it would
was
be the best sitcom.
There was
week,
more than one
of
attempt
the
to kill
top
him?
generals tries to kill Hitler.
I'm sorry, Ned. There was more than one attempt to kill him?
Oh, there were several.
There were several, yeah.
The,
But I just thought it could be such a slapstick show. You know, who's going to try to kill him this week? And he narrowly cheats death, and they all have
I can't help but bring up my favorite Hitler, which is of course Dick Shawn.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that really, as Laszlo Saint Dubois presents, as Hitler is that is the Führer. I mean,
I don't know if I think I told you this. I don't know if all of you were here when I told it, but the premise of the producers was that he sells all of these shares of the play.
Yeah.
He gets too many more backers than he needs.
And then it turns out to be, well, years and years and years ago, there was a TV show called The Racket Squad about bunco artists. And that was the plot.
Yeah.
That was the plot, overselling a Broadway play, knowing it would flop. And towards the end of it, the woman says to her husband, who's the bunco artist, he wasn't a bunco artist. He was a producer who was desperate, because he was going broke. So that's why he did this. And his wife said to him, have you seen the reviews yet? And he said, no, I haven't read them yet, but I know they'll be terrible. And of course, it turned out to be so bad it's good.
Let me ask you something. Was this before or after The Producers was written?
Years before.
Well, then that sounds like a pretty clear ripoff to me.
It did to me, too.
And nothing ever happened?
Evidently.
Wow.
How do we know Brooks didn't write the episode? I mean, he was a screenwriter.
No. Brooks was writing for Sid Caesar. No, he wasn't writing. No, he wasn't writing for a guy named Reed Hadley.
That's a pretty strong coincidence, I got to say.
I mean, Art Buchwald was counting his money for years.
I mean, it's not kind of like it. It's it.
It's almost exactly.
You are overselling shares in a Broadway, and it was a Broadway show. It wasn't like a TV. It was a Broadway show. It was the exact same idea, and it turned out to be, what
did you say the title of it was?
I'm sorry.
What was the title of it?
Oh, I don't remember.
Oh, I got to find out. Whose show was it?
It was called Racket Squad.
And
I think the host was a guy named, I think I was the only one here who was alive when this came out. Reed Hadley.
God, there's a name.
But I can't remember who that person was.
He had like this stentorian kind of, basso profundo voice.
Yes.
Which I can't even try to imitate. But that's who it was. Reed. I'm pretty sure it was Reed Hadley.
Okay, here's a question. We're going back. Remember, what was the show that had the private detective that had the ultimate in technology, the car phone? Do you remember that? It was almost part of the show. It was him driving in his Rolls Royce, talking on his car phone.
To Catch a Thief with Robert Wagner?
No, it was even before that. Was it
the
Barry?
Saint?
No, it might. It's early 1960s.
Well, that sounds familiar. Actually, I can't.
I want to say it was Gene Barry in the lead, but I could be wrong.
Burke's Law.
Burke's Law. There we go. That's it. Thank you.
Could have been it. Yeah.
Yeah. Who was Burke in that movie? Who played
Gene
it?
Barry.
That was Gene Barry.
Yes, it was.
Because I
He
remember
also
Gene
played
Barry.
Bat Masterson.
Yeah,
And was he a prosecutor in Burke's Law?
I think he was a private eye.
Oh, okay.
I think.
And of course he was in Name of the Game, which was one of those early sort of
and him and Anthony Franciosa.
Yeah,
that was a great show.
It was it had a rotating
carousel.
Right, rotating cast. Yeah.
God, I love that show.
Yeah, I mean, which I ended up watching a couple episodes that were on YouTube before they're were pulled down because God forbid a show that was produced over 50 years ago shouldn't still be producing nickels and dimes for whoever owns the copyright.
You know what's funny? You reminded me of this because Anthony Franciosa was, I believe I'm right about this, was married to Shelley Winters at one time.
Wasn't everyone?
Oh, I don't remember that particular.
I think I'm right about that.
He had was this when she was still somewhat good looking, or was this when she had morphed into the bovine creature that we saw later on?
No, she was kind of good. Do you know she was really good looking?
Hot as a young woman.
Did you ever see Executive Suite?
No. I remember in Patch of Blue was the first time I ever saw her.
That was great.
You saw it, right, Ned?
Executive Suite?
Yeah.
No,
let me tell you about this movie. It had William Holden, Dean Jagger, Frederick March, Barbara Stanwyck, Shelley Winters, Paul Douglas, Walter Pidgeon. It's a hell of a cast.
God damn, they could read a phone book and it'd be entertaining.
That's
and what was the plot?
The plot was, and it's kind of interesting because they do it from a POV to start the movie. This executive, the head of a company, his name is Mr. Bullard. I watch this every time it's on TCM. Every time he is, he sends a wire to somebody. And by the way, this is funny. The wire was 15 words and it was $1. $1. Okay.
A whole dollar.
And so he leaves the Western Union office and he goes out to catch a cab, gets a heart attack and dies. Okay. Now they have to make a decision about who is going to replace him. It's a furniture company. Right. It's a furniture company. Who's going to replace him? Oh, did I mention William Holden's in it? Holden's in it. June Allison is in it. And playing their son, Tim Considine.
Wow.
You're kidding.
No.
God.
And he was a little boy. A little boy at the time. Anyway, so, it's a lot of power plays about this, and the Shelley Winters was in this. She plays Paul Douglas's mistress. And one of the things I found amusing was all these kind of movies like The Apartment and Executives, all these guys had mistresses. And all these guys were not handsome. And all the women were pretty.
Nugent either.
And all the women were pretty.
Yeah.
It wasn't about being handsome, though.
It was about the power.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which explains Henry Kissinger and Jill St. John.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And lots of others. Yeah.
No, I've recently, and again, there's a great print of it on YouTube right now, 1,000 Clowns, which is a bit of its time.
Martin Balsam,
I haven't seen that one.
Martin Balsam and Jason Robards, and the kid that got in there, I forget the name of him, but
Keith Gordon.
He kind of steals the show.
Keith Gordon.
And it was a play before it was a movie, but you can tell a great movie, a little of its time.
Do you remember who plays Jason Robards' foil, the one who he constantly was pissing off? William Daniels.
Yeah, Bill Daniels. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean again, it's nowadays.
Did we ever talk about the Shelley Winters story about late in her career when she was
asked to audition?
Yes.
I love that story. Right? I love that.
That's one of my favorites.
You know that, don't you? 1 or 2 Oscars?
No, she had 2. She pulled them both out. She went, I'm told I can act.
But didn't she say, she pulled out one and said, here's my resume and here's my credit list or whatever.
Like, something like that.
Each Oscar represented one of those.
I'll tell you what I think pissed her off. I think the thing that I don't know this, but I think the thing that pissed her off was that the guy who asked her to audition was like 11 years old.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
that's
Of
I
course.
think that's what pissed her off.
Yeah, and probably didn't know who she was.
Right, exactly. The the story about Shelley Winters I love. It's not really about her. They asked Burt Reynolds, was he ever going to write an autobiography, which he never did.
Right.
And he said, I can't do that. I can't do that Shelley Winters thing. You know, who haven't I fucked?
Right. But she had that Ernest Borgnine quality. She could play some mean, villainous characters.
Mhm.
A Patch of Blue.
Yeah, Patch of Blue.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
she absolutely nailed. I
She
mean,
was
you wanted to
creepy.
shoot at her. Yeah, I mean, you just you
But then she did Diary of Anne Frank too.
yes,
Right.
That's
And
what
she
I mean.
did a Poseidon Adventure.
Right.
Yeah.
She could, Ernest Borgnine could do Marty, and then he could be an Emperor of the North.
And he could also do Bad Day at Black Rock.
Yes.
Right.
Which is one of the great film noirs that was in color.
Right.
Hmm.
And
I wonder why the plot had Spencer Tracy with one arm. Do you remember that? He had one arm.
I don't.
the other one had a bottle in it.
Ernest
No, no.
Borgnine from Here to Eternity.
Yes.
Fatso Judson.
Yes.
Oh right,
Yes.
yeah, he was the bully.
Right.
Now wasn't that also Andy
Yeah.
Griffith's first movie?
What?
Or am I From Here to Eternity?
No.
Or am I?
he
No,
wasn't
I'm
in that.
mistaking him for the another movie.
A Face in the Crowd was his first movie.
Face in the
Yeah.
Crowd, yeah, was his first movie, and then there was another one where he plays a sergeant, and the movie
No
is
Time for
essentially
Sergeants.
No Time for Sergeant. Yes.
Nick Adams,
Well,
Myra
yeah.
McCormick. Do you know
and
what
I
Nick
think
Adams
Don
died
Knotts
of?
was the drill instructor in that one.
Yeah.
it
He
ro-
was
it
roughly
roughly-
like a
Yeah,
For
private.
sergeants.
It roughly
No
very
Time for-
roughly inspired Gomer Pyle, I think.
Yes.
Although
Yeah.
no
And
And
time
he
for
also was in a
Sergeant's
movie
much
where he was in
funnier.
I'm sorry. He was also in a movie where he was in the Coast Guard called Onion Head
There you
with
go.
Joey Bishop.
Wow.
And of course, who didn't love Richard Widmark in the Bedford incident, when Richard Widmark outplays Richard Widmark being as insane as he could be as the captain of the destroyer tracing down the Soviet sub that eventually launches a nuclear torpedo. And
did Widmark ever play a good guy? Ever?
I don't know.
Yeah.
He wanted to, I'm told that in real life, he was a big fan of civil rights. He got Sidney Poitier in several roles.
Oh, he was a huge and his for a time his son-in-law was Sandy Koufax.
Yeah. I remember him playing a senator late in his career in an early John Cusack
Two
movie
Who
from
Rode
the
Together.
80s.
Well, he was in a Judgment at
In his
Nuremberg.
westerns.
Yes.
In his westerns, he played.
What a movie
Yeah.
that was.
He was
What,
yeah.
Andy?
But
That was a good one.
Widmark knew how
I
to
think he was
just
in
channel
two,
that
Two Who Rode
psychopath.
Together.
Andy, what
I
did
think
you
it was
say?
with
I'm
John,
sorry.
no, that wasn't Henry Fonda. That was Henry Fonda. I thought Two Who Rode Together, but that was with Henry Fonda and Jimmy Stewart. That was not him.
Of course, Henry Fonda
also,
shoots a 9-year-old kid right in the chest in Once Upon a Time in the West.
Oh, who hasn't?
Yeah,
Yeah. Who hasn't shown it?
You know, no one ever stops to think maybe he
that-
was a bad kid.
The Big Sky.
Maybe he talked during the movie.
It was a black and white Big Sky. He was one of the characters. Sorry.
Well,
I
you
mean,
remember, I'll tell you a movie that the Wyatt Earp that Kevin Costner did was maybe the most historically accurate one of all.
Really?
Because in all the others, when they talk about the gunfight at the OK Corral, it's like, oh, it's like 13 acres and it's over. No. It was like next to a stable. It was like 4 guys on each side, about 8 feet apart.
Yes.
But in that movie, I can't remember the name of it now.
I've got some movies that have 4 guys in a stable, but it's not like that. They get a lot closer.
That
They
was
were
with a
6 inches
stable, I
apart.
believe.
Yeah, well, yeah.
No, but what was the movie with Henry Fonda playing Wyatt Earp?
Poor guy.
Ooh.
Henry Fonda playing Wyatt Earp.
I don't remember.
Victor Mature.
Kurt Russell.
Walter Brennan.
Kurt Russell.
No, Walter
No,
Brennan.
that was later.
But anyway,
I remember that
no,
one.
but in this movie, in the one with Kevin Costner, Dennis Quaid played Doc Holliday, and he lost 30 pounds to do it because because Doc Holliday was tubercular.
Yes.
And in all these other movies, you know, they had
Yeah.
Kirk Douglas playing him. You know, he first of all, Doc Holliday died at the age of 36. You know,
Right.
Kirk Douglas was 50 when he made the fucking movie. You
Yeah.
know, Victor Mature, all these
Yeah.
guys were like in great shape. The guy was dying; he was coughing up blood. You know, and they always had him. You know, but I can't remember the name of that movie. It was a very famous movie with Walter Brennan and
Val Kilmer.
huh?
Oh,
No, that was a later. They
I-
did a later version with Val Kilmer, and who's that?
That was a good one too.
The guy who
Kurt
played
Russell.
Jim Jones.
Tommy Lee Jones.
No, different guy.
Kurt Russell.
Oh no, I know
Yes,
who you
Kurt
mean.
Russell was
Oh
in
God, he Powers
That was
Booth.
it. Was
Howard
Tombstone.
Booth.
Howard
did
Booth.
it.
Yes, there you go.
That was
Yeah.
a very good version.
Who was booed when he won an Emmy
Yeah.
because he acted during that actor strike.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
Powers Booth was great.
You know what I found out?
Oh, My Darling Clementine.
That's
My
it.
Darling
there you
Clementine.
go.
Way to go, Andy. Yeah, that's it.
Walter
Best
Brennan,
Henry Fonda movie ever.
There we go.
Yeah.
Best Henry Fonda movie
Yeah.
ever, though, is
Dennis
in Fail Safe.
Hopper. Oh no,
when he plays the president.
No, that was the one with
That was excellent.
that was the one where Burt Lancaster played Wyatt Earp.
God, there's another one.
Mhm.
There's no talent anymore. There's no one like Burt Lancaster in The Swimmer, which is a strange movie,
Oh man,
especially
what a
since it was
great
made in
movie.
1966.
Joan Rivers was in
Great
that.
movie. Yeah.
Yes. It was released 2 years
Yeah.
later. They didn't want to release it. He dipped into his own wallet to the tune of 6 figures to get some reshooting done. And it's it's a great allegory or parable about
That movie was
Westchester
too
County.
hit for that movie was too hit for the room.
And it was.
Hey, Burt
And
Lancaster
it's
he also backed Sweet Smell of Success.
yes. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, he again, but what an actor! What a guy unafraid to take some real serious risks in the movie Local Hero, which 1980,
God.
81.
When the
He only has a
psychiatrist
couple
was
of
calling
roles,
him
but-
a motherfucker
Yeah.
Great film.
and painting it on the window. Oh God! Oh my God!
That again, that movie is just such a low key scream.
You
And
know
he's
my favorite line
absolutely-
in that. You know my favorite line in that movie.
What's that?
There's one of the locals, right?
Yes,
Is painting
Shoot him.
hit a ship title,
yes, on the boat.
right? And his friend says, "Is that the way you spell that?" He goes, "I don't know, but there's 2 G's in bugger off."
One of my favorite scenes in that movie is when they're all pretending that they don't want to sell out, and the priest is talking to Paul.
Yes.
Was it Riegert? And all the locals are sneaking out in the background out of the church after meeting and trying to get the highest possible price that they could get. Again, a wonderful gem of a movie.
And Lancaster fell in love with the place, and then he didn't want to buy it.
Yeah, but he ended up buying it like for an observatory. He
Yeah.
didn't turn it into a refinery.
No,
Yes.
You remember?
he didn't.
Yes.
He didn't go full Trump.
Do you remember
No.
the Burt Lancaster
No.
Susan Sarandon movie about Atlantic City?
Oh
Yes.
man.
Oh, yeah,
Always
yeah.
Atlantic City?
Aye.
Is that his last movie?
That whole
That was one of-
line, that whole scene about the lemons, squeezing
Yes.
the lemons.
The lemon.
Saw the
Yeah.
women squeezing the lemons. Yes.
Robert.
The
Robert
ocean
Joy
was great
played,
back in those days. It's nothing now.
Yeah, the Atlantic Ocean was really something way back then. Yeah.
Robert Joy played
Nothing
his
now.
sleazy brother-in-law.
Who did?
Played
Robert who?
Susan Sarandon's sleazy brother-in-law. I have no idea who played her sister.
Okay, greatest sleaze of all time, James Wood in Casino.
Oh yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
He plays the sleazy pimp Lester Diamond. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's only got like 3 scenes, but again, he steals
Aren't you the
What's he got?
card shark
card shark,
tennis pro pimp?
tennis pimp.
pimp? Here, you want money? Here, take mine.
Take mine. Bring a gun, because that way you'll have it. Sam, you were out in Vegas. That was based on real events. You ever bump into
That
some
was
of those?
actually just before my time in Vegas, because
I
if you
mean-
remember, Joe Pesci says to Burt Lancaster says to Robert De Niro, look at you. You're dressed like John Barrymore.
Barrymore,
So that's a little before when, you know, that was supposed to be in the early 60s.
yeah.
How long were you out there?
I was out there for 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
For work?
I was out there before the Win. I'll tell you, I was there before Paris, before the Win. Actually, no, the Paris was just built.
And you were doing
but-
gigs? You were doing
Huh?
club
I
work?
had a radio show.
Oh, radio show. Oh.
Was the Circus
I mean,
Circus still there?
I did some stand up,
Right, of
you
course.
know. But the funniest thing that happened there was Pat Cooper. What a delusional man. Pat Cooper.
Is that on his tombstone?
Pat Cooper wants to do a radio show, right? Wants to have a radio show in Vegas because, you know, he's of an age where he, you know, he had burned so many bridges that he thought radio would be a good way to go. And so I didn't meet him. I had already met him, but he's one of these people who you've all met him. Am I right? Ned, you've met him.
Who? Pat Cooper?
Yeah.
Never met Pat Cooper. No.
Okay. Well, let me tell you this about him. Okay.
Okay.
You could meet him 3 times, and the next time you see him, he wouldn't know who you were.
I
Yeah.
can believe it. Yeah.
Okay. So I go and I had met him, and I go, "How you doing?" He goes, "You fucked this up for me." And I go, I'm sorry, I'm not your waiter. He goes, "Let me tell you, you know what I'm talking about." I said, "How would I know what you're talking about? You don't know what you're talking about." And he says, "Well, let me tell you what I'm talking about." And this is exactly how the conversation went. I said, "Okay, tell me what you're talking about." I just said it one more time because I wanted to piss him off. And he goes, we could have made something out here. I said, "I want to ask you a question before you say anything else. How much money were you asking for them to pay you to do radio here?" He goes, "I figured $1 million a year." I said, "$1 million. Okay."
$1 million.
I said, let me tell you a story. Okay. I work at a radio station. Okay. The entire budget for the entire radio station is $1,200,000. So whoever owns it would have to go to the ass store, buy a new one, and work it off to pay off that debt. I said, "They're not going to pay you $1 million." He said, "What do you think they can pay me?" I said, "If they lost their minds, $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, "What do you make?" I said, "None of your business."
Yeah.
He goes, No. And I told him a story that I'm now telling you. I said, "Do you know who Stanley Ullman is?" And he goes, "No." I go, "Okay." Stanley Ullman's a comic. And Stanley Ullman asked me exactly what you just asked me. How much am I making? But this is for a gig. And I said, "I'm not telling you." He says, "Well, you should tell me because it helps us both." I said, "Tell me how it helps me." He says, "Well, it gives me." I said, "See, you're using the wrong pronoun. If you're telling me it helps us both, me is not the one I want to hear." Because this is what, I don't know if you know Ullman, but this is what he would have done. He would have asked for a certain amount of money, and then he would say, "Well, Greenfield said," I know
Yeah.
he would have, absolutely would have just, you know.
Yeah, of course.
And then they had, I don't know if you remember this, they had a comedy convention in Vegas that Bud Friedman ran. And Ullman had this opening bit, which he thought, let me re-say that, he thought was just absolutely brilliant, which was, he comes on stage with a cup of coffee. He puts 2 creamers in it, puts some sweet and low in it, stirs it, and goes, "Oh, you don't need to get started in the morning?" Which would have been really funny, except it was 2:30 in the afternoon.
I remember him doing that.
Yeah,
I remember that routine.
And so after that day's work was over, I forget who he walked up to. It was somebody, you know, in TV. And he said, "So what'd you think of my show? What'd you think of my set?" He goes, and the guy said to him, I can't remember who it was, but he said, let me just say this to you. That was the worst opening bit I've ever seen in my life. He said, "Who told you that was funny?" He said, "It gets laughs." He said, "From who?" He said, "What senior citizens home thought that was funny?"
old people and their
went,
parents.
"Oh
yeah.
my God, he's never going to have an erection again." Oh my God. I mean,
oh, that's so funny.
Because see, my philosophy is, if you if you don't know the answer to the question, what did you think of my act? Don't ask that.
You
Yes.
never ask that question.
No, what did you think? Unless,
No.
unless you see a guy laughing so hard he's crying.
Yeah.
Okay, you can ask him. But if you just walk up to a guy and you don't know him and you go, "What'd you think?" No,
No.
no,
No. No.
no.
Hey, while I've got you guys here, seriously, been working on some new material. Let me just throw this out there. I think it's wildly funny, but not always. The pitch meeting for the
I don't
Ouija
like it.
board. Thank you.
I'm sorry. What?
For the what?
For the pitch meeting for the Ouija,
The Ouija
board,
board.
and
Okay.
whatever game company. It's like, what do we do? Well, it's a board with random numbers and letters that allows us to open a portal to another dimension. And occasionally the user may be possessed while answering banal yes or no questions. And it's like, brilliant. Let's put it in the kids aisle right next to Clue and, count 4. Well, you know how dark my humor is, but I mean, that's just sort of the basic premise. I'm just trying to figure out ways to
It allows children to speak to the dead.
to the undead.
Yeah.
Getting advice from
That's
the
right.
undead.
So in case they miss Grandma,
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well,
And I was passing out Ouija boards in at the emergency room for a little light entertainment, and the hospital tossed me
Sure.
out. And once again, it's their war on alternative medicine.
but
Beginning to.
Ouija boards were marketed by Hasbro or
Well, that's what I mean. It's
companies.
exactly.
One of the
That's
toy companies put that out.
yeah. I mean, that's so.
Do they
I mean,
still sell them?
well, I know I give them away, but only when I'm in my van and
But if you
and within
went to a
500 feet of
toy-
a school. I
if
mean,
you went to a toy, they don't have Toys R Us anymore. If you
No.
went to a toy place, would they still be selling those?
I
Yeah.
would like to think so. I'm sure I could go online. I mean,
I think
in this
I
modern
think
age, and again,
Walmart sells them.
I know that Ouija board humor might be a little nichey. I mean, if I've got if I'm booked at a Wiccan convention, maybe
Right.
I've got a shot with that. But then again,
Maybe
I interviewed a
6-year-olds. Maybe
Wiccan.
at Disney you might have a shot. That might work.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I interviewed a Wiccan,
yes,
and all she wanted to talk about is how predisposed Wiccans are to sexual freedom.
yeah, but have you
And
seen
I
them?
thought to myself, now that I'm married, now I meet her.
No,
Great.
yeah,
Great.
well,
Great. Because, see, if I wasn't married, I'd go, we'll be right back. But first, I'm going to shtup this witch.
Andy, do you know Nick Ford?
Me?
Nick Ford.
I'm sorry, Andy Jensen. Do you know Nick Ford?
Nick Ford.
He's a young comedian working around town. He's been at Unclub once or twice.
Okay.
We worked a
I can't-
show that was supposedly for a coven of witches
Okay.
and warlocks,
Oh, man.
and he said, "My girlfriend's not a witch, but sometimes I wish she was. That way, maybe she'd pick up a broom once in a while."
Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's hysterical.
that's good.
Right.
That's hysterical.
Oh my
Wow.
God!
Great line.
I worked with this comic from Canada, and he said, this is a bit he did. He said, you know that Trivial Pursuit was invented by Canadians. He said, and there was a question on it, which I thought was very unfair to Americans, which was which president of the United States' wife was pregnant when they got married. Now the answer is Nancy Reagan. She was 2 months pregnant with not Patty, whatever the oldest one was.
Ronald.
And and she said, and I think that's really unfair. I mean, how would us Canadians like it if we had which prime minister's wife blew Mick Jagger?
Equally insensitive.
Bianca Trudeau.
Equally hurtful.
I think so.
Remember when she was like closing Studio 54 and being photographed with whomever and
Closing the studio and opening her legs.
oh my God! And
Remember
then
the joke about the Trudeaus putting a pool in?
No.
They said Pierre would mix up the cement and Maggie would lay the stones.
Oh, that's great.
That's
Oh.
good.
That's terrific.
Oh.
And for all of our younger viewers, none of this will mean anything to any of you. You're all culturally bereft.
To which we all
The
say,
whole
pick
hour
up a
hasn't meant
goddamn
anything
book.
to the younger viewers.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I hate? I hate
You
when
bet your
one
sweet
says,
Bippy.
There you go.
There you go. I hate when one
Watch some
says, well,
movies.
that was before my time.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you know about the Declaration of Independence? That was before your
Sock it
time,
to
you
me, mister.
dimwit bitch. How about that?
They don't, again, I drive
fucker
them
to
around campus when occasionally, when they take the ankle bracelet off and I'm allowed to go apply my trade.
Mhm.
They are the most servile. You guys, we're all people of a certain age. We remember when, if you were in college or university, there was a sense of revolution in the air, whether it was a very direct sort of feeling or something a little less subversive.
Mhm.
Now it is nothing but being as servile
Mhm.
as possible, learning whatever trade you're going to whore yourself out with as quickly as possible for as much cash as you can get, because God forbid they slide down that greasy pole.
The
And
generation before mine was the one they call the greatest generation.
Yep.
yes,
And that's a generation that had to work for a living.
yeah,
Mhm.
Okay. And they instilled that in me.
yeah.
But that, and amazingly, my daughter has that. She has
Hmm.
that, my daughter gets up at 6 a.m. to go to the yoga studio she works at. I haven't had to wake her like, honey, it's time to get up in years.
Right.
Okay. She get,
Good for you.
but yeah, I'm very proud of her because of that. I remember the last time I tried to wake her, she goes, Dad, I have an alarm clock. I have an alarm. I have an alarm.
She's your
It's good.
daughter.
It's
Yeah.
fine. Don't worry. But she but the kids I feel so like the kids today. But
I know.
it's
I
true.
know.
But it's true. But that they there's a sense of entitlement. It's a generation of Karens.
Yes.
Plus, it's also a gig generation. Like they don't dream of working at a company for 30 years. They
No, they're
no.
going to strike
they
it
want a
rich. They're
job
going
for
to
6 months and then they move on for their
right,
whole
and
life.
then they're going to take all their money and live happily ever after. And while that may work for a few notable cases, by and large, that ain't the way it's going to go.
Right.
It just simply isn't.
Unless they're a towel boy for Louis C.K.
Well, God, I'd pay to
Yeah,
have
but
that
they
gig.
really earn their money.
It amazes me. I
Oh,
know
Mr.
Louis. I like
CK.
Louis, but it
Oh,
amazes me he didn't get arrested.
well, I mean, come on. Just because he's jerking off in front of random strangers, Sam, you say that like
He
it's a bad
always
thing.
asks permission.
Exactly.
Did he?
That's what they say.
Even if he asked permission, you
But did
can't
he
give.
say, can I, or did he say, may I?
Big difference.
Yeah,
Huge.
but I mean,
I'll tell you who didn't was Weinstein. See,
Right.
this
Yeah,
is what
no.
this is what I don't understand. You're a woman, and you're leaving the bathroom, the restroom, right? And here's this man, this Zoftig turd, standing in the middle of the middle of the hallway of the restaurant,
Yep.
masturbating. I'm going, what planet are you on that you thought this was acceptable?
God, Zoftic turd. That is in Detroit. We had a klezmer metal phase in the early '90s when people were playing heavy metal to klezmer. That would have been the perfect name.
That would have been
Zoftig
band.
turds.
Zoftic turds would have. Oh, you remember Ned? If you were,
Do I ever? I still have the T-shirt.
Would I?
would I?
Yeah, we're gonna
Airlip.
use that in a film.
I think it's time to go, kids.
I'm jumping off. Thank you all.
Ned,
Yeah.
take care.
All
It's
right.
great seeing you. Don't be
too.
a stranger.
That's why I'm here.
Now that you know the way. So long.
Goodbye
So
now.
long.
Hey, Mark,
Hey,
what was the
thanks
name
for
of that
joining us,
place?
everybody.
Let Mark do that. What was the
Okay.
name of the studio you wanted to get to set a studio up in? It was right around the corner from Ale House.
Is Mark asleep?
I don't know.
Dreamland.
he's
Oh, I
there.
wanted to do it at
Okay.
The Dreamland Theater.
Okay.
Dreamland.
All right. Because the way he's
I'm
sitting right
awake.
now, he looks
I'm
like
awake.
he
We're
looks.
still live, guys. The Dreamland Theater. I think it would work.
By the way, Buffalo is losing to Denver.
I know we're still live. I'm taking it. We've
Yeah.
got about 15 seconds.
How about them Lions?
Let me say this about Washington.
Wow.
You had 52 seconds.
We never did
stop
get
the
to
other
talk
team
because
from
of my technical
scoring
difficulties.
to
We
go to
never did get
overtime.
to talk
You
about
had
the
52
Lions.
seconds and you couldn't do it.
Never got to talk about the Lions.
Yeah, the Lions are doing great.